The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Mary Hurlbert, and I'll be speaking with you this morning about resident rights in what's known as a residential facility Class 2 home. It's more commonly called a group home. And I'm here with Linda Curdahl. She is a long-term care ombudsman. She's also the volunteer coordinator for the rest of us. I am a volunteer ombudsman, and we'll explain a little bit later what that is and how to pronounce it and what we do to help. The first one of these that I did a practice with Linda last year, I finished and she said, well, it was just fine, but you need to learn how to pronounce ombudsman. So now I can. You have a chat button that I believe you can write a question. Linda's going to monitor that. So if anybody has a question while I'm talking, please feel free to type it in there or hit the button and raise your hand so that you can ask a question. Linda's also going to be the expert for the day. I never let her get away without being here to answer all the questions because I may not know the answers. She knows everything. As a resident in a group home, you have certain rights. You have all the rights that you had before you got there with 33 additional rights. As an ombudsman, we're going to help educate you on what those rights are, and we're going to advocate for you, the resident. Pro Seniors is the agency that houses the Ombudsman program in this part of Ohio, and you can call us at 513-458-5518. And in case you haven't been reminded yet, starting October 24th, anytime you dial a local number, you have to dial the 513. We help solve problems, hopefully before they get to be major, in partnership with you and with the administrator of your home. We're not a regulatory agency. We're here to work together with everyone. So just what do we do? It's a hard word to say, ombudsman, but we advocate for those people who are living in a group home. And we're here to educate. That's one of the things that I'm doing today. And I do a lot of public speaking and explaining what rights are. Ombudsman, main position thing they do is to visit residents in the home, talk about what's going on, see if everything is being done right, but it's in keeping with what the resident wants. This isn't an adversarial thing, us against them. We take our direction from you, from the resident, about any action that you think needs to take place or what the pace is for that resolution. If it's something that really, this needs to be done today, or something that could be longer term, and what your desired outcome is. Our goal is to create avenues of communication with the home administrators and you to strive to address the issues at their earliest stages. Sometimes it's just a matter of we're all speaking the same language, but we're not hearing the same thing. So if we can have 3 people with the ombudsman helping to address those issues before they get to be major, before people get angry with one another, simple things can be done. And we also walk through the facility. So I was speaking to an ombudsman last week, and it was her first time to go into a new facility. And she said, that this was a nursing home, not a group home. She said, I looked around and they had everything where they had all the rights there, but They were so high that people in wheelchairs couldn't read them. So all I did is say, would you put the rights down so that when somebody wants to know and you're in a wheelchair, they can see them. In Ohio, well, everywhere, your home is licensed by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services in Columbus. They authorize the Ombudsman program to reach out to residents and work with you. We share best practices with your administrators. So, for instance, the rights that were not placed where someone in a wheelchair could read them. It was a simple fix, something an ombudsman would notice, something a resident may not realize even has to be there. In addition to your rights, remember, you give up none of your civil rights when you enter a group home. There are 33 additional rights found in the Ohio Revised Code. You also have policies for where you live or house rules that you follow. But you can't give away your civil rights because the house rules changed them. So, for instance, your laundry. You can't sign something that says, if you use my laundry, that's fine with me. We understand that these things happen and we can't take care of that. No, your clothes are yours. Someone needs to be keeping track of them. If this happens repeatedly, this is an issue that has to be addressed. And we know that there are ways to solve it because other residences aren't having this difficulty. You have a right to be treated with dignity and respect at all times, with reasonable protection from physical, emotional, mental, or verbal abuse. And let's say a little something about the word abuse. Abuse is intentional. Somebody purposefully causes you physical, emotional, or mental harm. Maybe somebody just takes an instant dislike to me and they start yelling at me every single time they see me and I have done nothing. Or maybe I accidentally, I'm not really steady on my feet, I accidentally fall into you and you fall on the floor and you hurt yourself. That's not abuse. That's an accident and steps need to be taken so this doesn't happen. But that's not abuse. Abuse is if somebody repeatedly does something mean to you and on purpose. Communication. To be fully informed of your rights, all rules and regulations governing resident conduct and responsibilities have to be orally, I have to tell you, and in writing, in a language you understand. And like I just said, you have to have written copies of your rights and the grievance procedure if things escalate to that point where something is really awful. You have a right to file a grievance. And you have a right to file that grievance without discrimination or reprisal. In other words, no one can get even with you. You can't be afraid that if I open my mouth about something, they're going to kick me out of here or something bad is going to happen to me. And you have a right to have prompt efforts by the group home to resolve your issue. Maybe some things can take a couple of days or a week or something long term. But what if you wake up one morning and you have bed bugs falling all over and you have bites and whatever, and you go to the administration, you say, I don't know what happened, but I got bed bugs in my room and it's just awful, and they say, well, we'll give you, maybe we can get to that next month, but I have so much going on right now, I can't deal with it. That's not acceptable. Decision making your choice. You have the right to visit the home and decide that this is where you want to live. When you get there, you have a right to practice your religion or not practice religion. You have a right to refuse treatment for services or medication. It's your right to refuse. It's the home's right to let you know what happens if you refuse. So if you refuse to take your blood pressure medication, someone needs to explain that not taking blood pressure medication means you might have a stroke or a heart attack. Well, maybe that's your choice, but you need to know what it means when you make that choice. You don't have to do every single thing that's offered. So the way bingo on Friday afternoons should be addressed is anyone who is interested can play bingo on Friday afternoon. We have someone come and call bingo, and we have gifts that we give out, and it's a lot of fun. That's fine. But to say bingo is every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and you need to be in the common room at 3 o'clock, that's not. You always have a right to refuse. You'll even have a right to refuse to shower, maybe refuse treatment for diabetes. Again, someone needs to explain what the repercussions are of that kind of behavior for you. Decision making and making choices, you don't give that up either. You have a right to consult with an independent treatment specialist, a heart doctor, whatever, legal counsel. You have an attorney, and you can afford to pay for it, or you have some way to get them to work for you. That's your right. Unless you have a guardian, you have a right to manage your own financial affairs and possess a reasonable sum of money. You also have, let's talk a little bit about guardians. Guardianship. Some of you may have a legal guardian, and a guardian is someone who's been appointed by the county probate court to manage your finances and your health decisions. That's off your plate. If someone's managing your finances because they're a guardian, that's okay. You have that right. Other than that, you have the right to handle your own affairs. You also have a right to be free from its conflicts of interest. The person who is your guardian, looking out for you, cannot be someone who works for the home where you're living. So no employee can be your guardian or your custodian or your representative, because they're only serving one master, you, not their employer. You have a right to access your own records, right to that information. Now, I will tell you, I'm of an age when I remember you could not access your own records. The only way you knew what was in them was if the doctor left the room and you grabbed the paperwork and went, ooh, what did he say? Today, you have a right to access everything. You have a right to be informed what your own condition is. It's your body, it's your life. You have a right to know. Everything, nothing in life is free. You have a right to be informed when the rates change. You know what the rates are, and you knew that this is what it's going to cost you to stay here. If there are additional charges for doing certain things, you need to know that. And you need to know in advance if the price goes up, if the charges go up, all these things you need to know ahead of time, because that's your information, your life. Have a right to quality care and treatment, a safe and clean environment, a welcoming, stable, and supportive staff. So what does safe and clean mean? Maybe in the outside world, different things to different people, but there have to be standards. There shouldn't be bugs running around. There shouldn't be dead bugs. Your environment should be clean, and you have a right to complain if it is not. When you visit to see if this is where you want to live, see how welcoming it is. Does it feel stable? Does the staff really nice? Do they introduce themselves? You have a right to be free from unnecessary or excessive medication. So you can't be given medication to make sure that you go to sleep every night at 8 o'clock, unless that's what you want. If you don't know what you're taking, ask. You also need to know, like we said before, you decide to not take your blood pressure medication, you need to know what the consequences are. And you have a right to be in the common areas. So the one group home where I go, there's a beautiful living room where everybody is free to sit, watch TV if they want, play games, socialize with one another. That's a right. That's not a gift. Privacy rights are the biggest thing when we're in a group home. We need to be able to communicate freely, be visited at reasonable times by our own attorney, our own physician, our own psychologist, whatever we may choose, if we can afford it. Mail and phone. That's your mail. No one should be opening it for you and reading it. That's yours to open, that's yours to read, that's yours to take care of. The phone, if you don't have a cell phone, most of us do these days. If you have a cell phone, you can take your cell phone out on the porch, you can take it to your bedroom, nobody can hear what you say. If you have to use the main phone in the building, there has to be a phone someplace private so that you can talk to people. You have a right to see your visitors in private. That includes the ombudsman and anybody from the mental health and addiction services. And to receive your medical care in private. So sometimes it might just be more convenient if everybody got the medications at when you ate dinner, and maybe you take blood pressures at that time, and oh, it's so efficient. But it's not person-centered care. It doesn't give you privacy. If you have a question that you want to ask, maybe you don't want to ask it in front of all the other residents. You can keep your door closed. And when your door is closed, anyone who comes to visit or wants to enter your room, including the staff, should knock first and wait for you to say it's okay to enter. Your financial records and medical records are yours. Just because somebody works in the home doesn't mean they have access to your personal files. You do. Maybe there are certain people at the home where you're living who do. No one else can without your permission or the permission of someone who's looking after your rights, like your guardian. But other than that, nobody can just say, I'd really like to know da-da-da-da-da, and go look at your records. Not allowed. The right to be advised and the right to refuse observation by others, such as using one-way mirrors, tape recorders, video recorders, television, movies, photographs, any kind of future audio and visual technology. You know, it's all getting more and more every day. They can use closed circuit monitoring to observe areas in the facility other than bathrooms or sleeping areas. Because come on, that's your space, our space, or other areas where privacy is reasonably expected. They need to get written permission before they can take pictures of you. So my sister-in-law was temporarily in a rehab unit, and they asked her if she would mind letting them tape her. So she did a little TV ad, and she let them take pictures, and she really didn't mind if the whole world saw her. And that's a good thing, because she kept asking if she could see it, and it was never ready, and then she left, and she didn't think anything of it. And about 18 months later, she got a call from our niece that said, we're watching TV tonight, Aunt Peggy, and all of a sudden Todd said, hey, that's Aunt Peggy. So if she didn't want people to know that she was there, then she would have said, I'd really rather not. This isn't when I look my best. You have a right to do that. Our human, legal, and civil rights. Now's probably a bad time to tell you you have a right to vote, because I believe if you have not registered, you don't get to vote this year. You have a right to get married. And you have a right to move in there with your spouse and decide, we just don't like each other anymore, we're getting a divorce. certainly have a right to be free from any type of discrimination because of race, ethnicity, age, color, religion, gender, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, HIV status, and you have a right to your own personal property and possessions. Again, the medical treatment, it's not an all or nothing thing. So if you're diabetic and you want a huge piece of your cake for your birthday, that doesn't mean that you want to totally get off the diabetic diet. Drinking, oh, I forgot. Drinking and alcohol. I always put this in here because I have friends who are not alcoholic, but they like their wine at night. They like their wine at night so much that when their doctors told them that they had to stop drinking, they just looked at them and said, well, that's not going to work. What else you got? So I couldn't wait to tell them, you have a right to drink and to smoke. But maybe your medical care says that you should do neither. No one is going to let anyone smoke in their room. The home, your home, may have a policy of no drinking. You should know that before you move in. Ombudsman, if there's issues with this, is more than happy to work with you. You cannot be deprived of any legal rights solely by reason of residence in the facility. You live there, you've given up none of them. So protection from transferring, discharge, or move. You get to stay where you are right now, unless they can no longer meet your needs, or the resident, you decide, if you, pardon me, not you decide. If you're a documented danger to other residents, staff, or visitors, you can be discharged. That means you could just be told to leave. You're normally going to be given a written 30-day notice before your discharge. They're usually given, not always, if there's extenuating circumstances, if they really need to ask you to leave now. It's the home's job to help you leave. They have to let you know the reason for the discharge, the proposed location where you're going. You have a right to an impartial hearing if you think you should be able to stay. You have the right to remain until the proposed date. And they have to give you the address and phone number for legal services office, the Ohio Department of Health, Ohio Legal Rights, and the Ombudsman Program. In other words, remember when we talked about not being able to get even if you file a complaint? This isn't anything you have to worry about. No one can just say, file a complaint, I'll take that. It doesn't happen. It's important to know that your ombudsman can help with the hearings. So talk with us at the regional program if you run into issues about being transferred or discharged to see if we need to get involved. Least restrictive environment. You have a right to receive your services in the least restrictive, feasible environment. So, no restraint. That means nobody's going to tie you to a chair. No seclusion, not going to be locked in your room. You're also not going to be locked in or out of the facility. This is not a prison. This is your home. And finally, I just want to tell you a little bit about two other programs that we have besides the long-term care ombudsman. We have the Ohio Senior Medicare Patrol, and they're helping seniors prevent, detect, report healthcare fraud. You'd be amazed how often it happens, of errors and abuse. They work one-on-one with Medicare beneficiaries to educate them about healthcare fraud. identity theft, which is rampant among seniors. If you have questions about your Medicare statement, about how to protect your Medicare number, about how to understand and read your summary notices, this is the number that you call. 513-345-4160. And legal services, nobody likes attorneys until they need one, and they're very expensive. We offer anybody over the age of 60 1/2 hour of free legal advice. You call the office 513-345-4160 and ask to speak to an attorney. You'll get a short interview to see which attorney could best answer your question, and then you'll set up an appointment for you to speak with that attorney for about 30 minutes. We have this area has online toolkits. POA is power of attorney, how you do that. Wills, estates, money, debt. I invite you to come to our website and explore all 3 of these programs. You will learn so much. And finally, I don't know, I'm assuming, can they see me? Okay, you all can see me. I'm holding a copy of Residents' Rights. If you want your own copy, call our helpline, 513-458-5518, and we will be happy to send you one. And I thank you very much. And if there are any questions, raise your hand for the chat room. I'm sure you got this.
Muted.
Okay. Oh, I gotta mute. Do you know how to mute that?
I do if I get out of here. Okay. And the slideshow.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Sorry about the little, technology. Anyway, I'm going to take everybody off of mute. And I think I am. And then you can ask a question, or you can type something into the chat box, and we can go that way. So thank you, Mary. Thank you for going through all those through resident rights. As Mary said, if you want a stack of residents' rights brochures to hand out to residents and staff and whoever, we're happy to get those to you. And the Ombudsman program is here to partner with you, to work with you, and we're here to support resident rights, or to consult with you to solve a problem ahead of time, as Mary said, before something becomes a real problem. Okay, there we go. Okay, I have now unmuted everybody. Some of you have yourselves on mute, so you would try that again. Maybe I don't have the ability to unmute everybody. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat room, in the chat box. All right. Okay, well, again, thank you everybody for coming to today's presentation on resident rights. If you have logged in, I have your name. I can see you on screen, and you will be provided with a certificate of completion that'll come to you via email, and probably closer to the end of this week, maybe early next week. So Friday or Monday, look in your email for a certificate of completion for attending this webinar on resident rights. And okay, so if there's no questions, I thank you all again for coming, and feel free to reach out to the Ombudsman program at any time. We're here for you.
You hear me, Ms. Kurdoff?
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. All right, thanks everybody.
Can you hear me, Ms. Kurdoff?